Hey everyone, it's Alex Martinez and Ryan Zomorodi. We're the founders of realestateskills.com, and today we have an awesome video for you. We're going to dive deep into Real Estate Comps 101, specifically for wholesaling and flipping real estate. We're going to dive into what are real estate comps, how to find real estate comps. We're going to dive into our real estate skills comp criteria cheat sheet, the rules we've been using for over 12 years to effectively wholesale and flip houses across the United States. So be sure to download this, follow along. You can get it at realestateskills.com/comp, and it'll be in the description as well. So Ryan, let's dive into it, man. You ready to rock?
Yeah, let's do this, Alex. I'm ready.
All right. So first off, before we dive into comps, we really have to take a step back and dive into our big three numbers when it comes to wholesaling and flipping real estate, because that will show the importance of why we want to find real estate comps. So you want to start us off on our big three?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great place to start because if you don't have these big three numbers, then you're not going to know how to properly make an offer, and you're not going to properly know how to pursue a deal that's going to ultimately be profitable. So the first of which is the ARV, otherwise known as the after repair value. The second of which is the repair costs, otherwise known as the rehab costs, right? The budget for construction on a fix and flip. And the third is the purchase price, right? We want to determine what the purchase price is to make sure that it's going to be a profitable buy, fix, and sell project, right? A fix and flip. So shall we dive into all three of them?
Yeah, let's do it. So, ARV, and for any wholesaler and flipper to be worth their salt, they got to know these numbers, right? This is the skill of being an effective wholesaler and fix and flipper. If you can't determine an ARV, if you can't determine the repair costs, you're not going to be able to determine your purchase price nor your wholesale fee, and know where the best place to offer for you to make your desired wholesale fee and for your cash buyer to make a profit. So this is the skill set. I think a lot of people skip over this step. They try and hijack it with software and use software and not actually develop any skills in this area, where these are absolutely vital. So I just want to mention that. But yeah, let's dive into the ARV, the after repair value, just at the top.
Yeah, ARV stands for after repair value. And in the context of rehabbing and adding value to properties, this is ultimately the projected value of a given property after it's been fully renovated to current market standards. So we're trying to determine what a given property can sell for, really the ceiling of value that a given neighborhood, a given property can realistically command today if we were to rehabilitate the property, to redevelop it and make it shine, right? Make it renovated to the standard that the most renovated comps in the area can ultimately demonstrate to us. So this is the number of the big three numbers that will involve real estate comps. This is where we do pick and pull from the best data we have in our marketplace to tell us what this value is going to be after repair. So we start with the ARV because we want to reverse engineer the deal, right? The ARV can also be thought of as the total gross proceeds of a sale, right? When you think about it, you buy a distressed property, you fix it up, and then you want to sell it for top dollar on the market once all the renovations are complete. So when you make that sale, this is the number that is the top line revenue that you as a fix and flipper, or if you're a wholesaler, your cash buyer is going to achieve after they fix it up and then resell it. So we reverse engineer by saying, hey, this is the total amount of value that we can achieve on the resale. And then we want to back out from that and subtract our transactional costs, subtract our repair costs. And then even if we're going to wholesale it, subtract our wholesale fee to then determine what is the purchase price that we as either a buyer, as a real estate investor, or as a wholesaler need to secure the property for under contract to then move forward and have a profitable exit. So that's really the ARV. And again, we'll dive into how to pull real estate comps, what are the best characteristics of real estate comps, but the after repair value is supported by real estate comps. So that's really the first one, and it's arguably the most important one, because if you get that wrong, as you can see from the calculations I just described, then everything else will be off. So that's what we're really going to dive into today. And really what our comp criteria cheat sheet will help everybody understand is how to determine the ARV on any given property that you're looking to fix and flip or wholesale.
And just to add some color and context, you and I weren't perfect at determining an ARV when we first started real estate. It takes practice, right? There's a lot of characteristics that we're going to get into that you need to look out for in different real estate comps to determine the value of what the future sales price will be for your property. And there's a lot of assumptions when we start out that we think, oh, this property here, this 5-bed, 5-bath house, that's just like my 2-bed, 1-bath house over here. And we get into a lot of trouble in the beginning, but we wholesale effectively. We don't want to purchase a property or do a fix and flip deal, without being confident in these numbers. And this is, just add a little more color, why we want to start wholesaling real estate, why I recommend starting to wholesale real estate. Because if you do get your ARV wrong, let's just say you estimate it was $600,000, it's actually $500,000. That directly eats into your profit. And if you had a $50,000 profit at the end of the day, estimated, you're actually going to lose $50,000. And so that's the importance of the ARV. You don't want to get it wrong. It's extremely important to understand. And, just from what we've seen too, you can't plug this into some random software and get an accurate ARV. You got to be able to understand, okay, what the heck is it? And then from the ARV, we then go into repair costs, which, how about you dive into repair costs a little bit too?
Yeah, absolutely. So every property is going to have a different amount of repair costs depending on how distressed it is, how large the property is, what level of finishes are required to sell that property for top dollar after it's been repaired. So again, the second number is repair costs, otherwise known as rehab costs. So it's the total estimated construction budget required to fully renovate the property, as well as fix any deficiencies that a resale buyer is going to want to have fixed. So for example, changing the roof, changing the flooring, updating the cabinetry, installing new appliances, and fixing other mechanical issues, installing new HVAC, plumbing, electrical issues, making sure that everything works and it's functional first and foremost. But then you also want to make sure it looks beautiful, right? You want to make sure that a buyer comes in there and is just wowed by how it looks like, right? So there's a design element to the repairs as well, but ultimately it's capturing all of the costs of repairs to not only rehabilitate the property to make sure it's functional and will qualify for financing, but also to make sure that it's going to sell for top dollar and it's going to sell quickly on the market.
Yeah, perfect. And if anyone didn't catch it yet, there's repair costs and then after repair value. So they go hand in hand together, right? That's the R in ARV. And so that's the repairs needed to put a property to current market trends to sell at the ARV. Once again, this is another number that beginners get wrong all the time. I mean, more often than not, they're going to be underestimating repair costs, not knowing the true repair costs needed. So this does take a little bit of practice to get down. And then once we get the repair costs, let's talk about the purchase price.
Yeah, so the purchase price of the property is ultimately what you are going to be offering to buy the property. What's your acquisition price of a given piece of real estate? So this will largely depend on your business model and your investment strategy. So if you're a wholesaler, you also need to factor in what's in it for the end buyer, right? If you're wholesaling a property to a cash buyer, then you need to understand, what's the adequate price for that buyer to purchase it, to repair the property, and then still have meat on the bone at the end of the day. They need to make a profit for an investor to buy this property, spend the time, spend the money to rehabilitate it, and then ultimately take the risk of putting it on the market for resale, right? So you need to make sure that not only it works on paper, but you have the substance to back it up as far as having the right real estate comps in place, and then having enough margin to repair the property and make a profit. And again, if you're wholesaling the property, you also need to back in your wholesale fee. Mm-hmm. So you need to factor in if you're going to be charging an assignment fee or if you're looking to immediately flip the property via a double close, then you need to make sure that you've already factored that into your purchase price.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of these numbers are contextual, right? That's why we wanted to cover this first. We'd be doing a disservice if we didn't dive into all of these numbers, the ARV, the repair costs, the purchase price. If we didn't dive into those, no one would have the appropriate context on why real estate comps are important, right? Mm-hmm. We start with the ARV, and how we find the ARV, how we use real estate comps is so we can find the ARV. So let's now dive into the technical side of what are comps in real estate and why are they important?
Yeah, absolutely. I also wanted to mention on the big three. So there's a common misconception amongst newbie investors and wholesalers that there's only one after repair value on a property, that there's only one repair number on a property, and there's only one purchase price that makes sense. But these are all opinions. These are all subjective. So what an ARV is, it's an estimate, it's a projection, it's an opinion of value. So it's not like a fact that, oh, this property has one ARV that I'm estimating here, and that's all. It's you might ask 3 different appraisers what a property value is, you might get 3 different answers. And the same with the repair costs, right? You might have the same scope of work to rehab a property, and you talk to 3 different contractors, you might get 3 different numbers. And then purchase price, right? Depending on what kind of profitability you're looking for in a deal, how much are you going to charge as a wholesale fee? What's the intended use of that property, and what profit margin are you willing to accept? You might have a different purchase price. So those numbers are malleable, and just depending on your model and how much data that you have at hand, the quality of your data, then you might get different numbers. But just wanted to mention that there's not just one number that is true and unique for each property. It's like it just depends on how you're looking at a particular deal. So,
great point. And just to preface the next section on exactly what you said, comping and finding these properties, finding these numbers, we like to say it's part art, part science. We can break it down on a scientific level and have, a quantitative analysis on plus 1 bathroom, minus 1 bathroom, and make those differences there. But also there's a qualitative approach of understanding the feel of an area and how that can change an ARV. The feeling and emotions of an end buyer can change the ARV on a house. And so great point, knowing that, hey, the ARV, is it always static? No, it can be variable. Variable at the time of the year, Is it December? Is it cooling off? Is there snow? Is it snowing in this area and not a lot of people are moving? Or is it summertime? Kids are out of school and now we're moving. There's a lot more buyers, right? So great point there for context.
Yep. So to answer your question, what are comps in real estate? Why are they important? So comps are comparable sales, right? It's a short term for comparable sales in real estate. And what are comparable sales? They're properties that are similar to the subject property with similar characteristics and location and different features that make them comparable to each other within a similar market area. And so for wholesalers, for flippers, we use real estate comps to create a basis of value, right? A fundamental value on any given property. We need to compare to other similar properties. So real estate comps are, again, other similar properties in a market that have sold, which gives us a data point to then form our opinion of what the value is going to be on any given property. So I like to say the comps are data points. The comps are the facts in the data, and then we use those facts to then form an opinion of what the value is and what it can be in the future. So why is that important, right? So if we're fixing and flipping a property, right, we're projecting what is going to happen in the future. So an after repair value is looking into the future by looking at today's data. So we always want to imagine that if we're buying a piece of real estate and renovating it overnight and relisting it tomorrow, what can we sell that for? right? And the only way we're going to know that is by looking at the data and making a rational, logical, and substantive decision based on what we have available to us.
Be on the lookout for the next video in this series. And if you want to build a hyper-profitable wholesaling and flipping business, then check out my full in-depth training at realestateskills.com/watch. See you there, and happy wholesaling.